Okay, so as we have defined the eligibility criteria in our previous lecture, our next step is to reflect upon the search strategy. But for search strategy, we need to identify some databases. Now, what is a database? A database is an organized collection of data which is stored, managed, and assessed electronically and allows the users to efficiently retrieve the data in a structured format. There are several types of databases, but for this review, we have selected PubMed and Google Scholar because they are specialized for providing high quality research and are specialized in biomedical researches. But for each of the database, we need to identify or specify some specific keywords from the research topic. So for this review, our keywords would be like virtual reality, balance training, and post-stroke patients. Not only these, we will also use a synonym of these keywords for expanding our scope of research. Okay, so these keywords will be joined together through Boolean operators, either or and, for creating the search strings. These Boolean operators are helpful because they will either narrow down or either expand the scope of the research. So, as described in the table seen below, we have the keywords linked through Boolean operators in a Pico format. So for population, we have stroke patients and its synonyms joined together through Boolean operators, or has the ability to expand the scope of the research by including all the synonyms that could be included in the search terms. But and will narrow down the scope of the research by including only the specific keywords identified in the search string. Okay, so for each of the population intervention comparison and outcome, we have the keyword and its synonym joined together through Boolean operators. So basically it is the search string which will be used in the search engine for searching. Okay, so how we do the search? Firstly, for both these databases, we will open the databases, either Google Scholar or PubMed. Okay, we will type the search string and will search for the studies according to the research topic. Okay, so this search strategy would yield multiple studies, but we have to narrow down or retrieve only the studies which will be specific for a topic. So for this purpose, we will do the screening with respect to the duplication titles and abstracts. So the screening step would be in the next slide. Okay, so it is study selection process. Okay, so you can see PRISMA chart and the two steps of screening. There is initial screening and full text screening. Okay, so basically the process of screening is a two-step process. Initially, we do initial screening in which titles and abstracts are reviewed based on the eligibility criteria. Okay, all the included studies or all the accessed studies will be screened with respect to their titles and abstracts, and we will see either it matches our eligibility criteria or not. Okay, once the full text screening is done, then we will review all the full text of the studies in order to either they truly match our eligibility criteria, or still there is any difference which could create any harm to our study or could create any risk of bias. Okay, so here's a PRISMA diagram. Okay, so PRISMA stands for Preferred Reporting Items for Systematic Reviews and Meta-Analysis. It is basically used for reviewing the two-step in a screening process in systematic reviews and meta-analysis. Okay, so as you have seen that in the initial box, we have the studies identification on databases. Okay, so we have the two databases, PubMed and Google Scholar. Okay, so when we have entered the search string according to our topic, we get 545 studies from both the databases. Okay, so in the next slide, as you have seen, records removal before screening. So okay, so before the initial and full text screening, we have to specify or narrow down or filter some studies on the basis of duplication. Okay, the 100 studies were duplicated between 545 studies and had different population and had outcome other than BBS and other study designs. So before the screening process, all these studies were removed based on the above categories. Okay, so after the studies were removed based on the above screening, okay, the records were screened. They were left with 85 studies. Okay, then 85 studies were further screened with respect to our eligibility criteria, and 15 studies were further removed. Okay, so the next step was the full text screening. Once the studies were screened with respect to the titles and abstract, they were followed by the full text screening, in which we had only 70 studies, which were further narrowed down to only 15 studies by excluding 55 studies based on our exclusion criteria.